In this video, we'll be looking at 1.4, special products. And our essential question will be, what are some shortcuts for special situations? So we have some special situations where we're multiplying two polynomials or binomials together, but they'll be very similar to each other, or exactly the same, and we can take a shortcut to get there. But one thing I want to make a note of is that this lesson is all about shortcuts. You don't have to do the shortcuts. If you are not comfortable with the shortcuts, use the skills from 1.3. So what I'm getting at is you don't have to use these shortcuts. You can always write things out, take your time, and do it the longer way. That way you only have one way memorized. But if you want to kind of speed up the process, you can memorize these shortcuts, and then that will make it go by a little bit quicker. Our first shortcut will be if we have, when we deal with the square of a sum. So what that means is I'm going to have two binomials. I'm adding them together. That's our sum. And then I'm going to square that binomial. So what I'm saying is I'll have two binomials added together, a plus b, and then I'm going to square that. So if we see this situation, there's a shortcut to kind of make the process go faster. We could always write this out, a plus b times a plus b, and then work it out. Or we could use this shortcut where I take my a term, that first term, I square it, and then I go plus 2 times the a term times the b term, and then I add to that the b term squared. So let's look at an example, see if we can make sense of this. So if I had 3x plus 5 squared, the 3x is my a term, and the 5 is my b term. So we're just going to take this 3x and plug it in for a, and we'll take this 5 and plug it in for b, and then we'll simplify. So I have 3x squared, here I am plugging in for the a term, plus 2 times 3x. There's my a term plugging in again. Now I plug in my b term, which is 5. So I'll plug in 5. And then the final thing I do is take that b term, the 5, and square it. Now we can simplify. 3x squared is 9x squared, 3x times 3x, plus 2 times 3 times 5 would be 30x. So 2 times 3x times 5 is 30x, plus 5 times 5 is 25, and we're done. Okay, so that's how you do the square of a sum. So I have an example that I'd like you to try on your own. 8c plus 3 squared. So if you would, go ahead and pause right here. You can pause right here and try this on your own. So hopefully you took the opportunity or the chance to try this on your own. But let's go through it real quick. I take my a term, that's going to be the 8c, that first one. I take 8c, I square that, and I go plus 2 times my 8c, my a term again, times my b term, the 3, plus my b term squared, and then we simplify. 8c times 8c would be 64c squared, multiplying these two together. Now I multiply these three together. 2 times 8 is 16, times 3 is 48, so 48c. And then I square the 3, and I get 9. And I'm done. Next, we will look at what if I'm squaring, have a square of a difference. So there's a subtraction in the middle. It's very similar. We just really have one symbol that changes in our equation. So the basic form would be a minus b squared. So there's my difference. A minus b is equal to a squared, my first term squared, minus, there's where it changes, 2 times a times b plus b squared. So it's very similar to the square of a sum. It's very similar to the square of a sum, except with the difference, this minus this right here, instead of a plus sign, is a minus. So it's the only thing that changes from the last shortcut. So let's look at an example. I have 2x minus 5y squared. Here's my a term, here's my b term. Now we'll plug in, and I'll get 2x squared minus, so I have 2x, my first term, squared, and I'm going to subtract 2, that's coming from our little equation, times my a term, 2x, times my b term, 5y, plus my b term, 5y, squared. And then we simplify. 2x squared is 2x times 2x. That would be 4x squared minus 2 times 2x times 5y. That's 2 times 2 is 4. Times 5 is 20xy. And then I square the 5y squared, which would be 5y times 5y. So that's 25y squared. And we're done. So I have an example I'd like you to try on your own. P minus 2r squared. So identify your A and your B and try to simplify this one. Pause right here and try this one on your own. So let's look at this one. And we have my a term is p squared minus 2 times my a term p times my b term 2r plus my b term 2r squared. Simplifying, we get p squared minus 2 times p times 2r would be 4pr plus 2r squared would be 4r squared. No parentheses. 4r squared. And that's how we can find the square of a difference. Now I have one more that's special kind of product. And this one is actually the important one for the day, because this one we'll need to use later. So this is, if there's one that you really need to take away from today, it's this one. And that's the product of a sum and difference. So when we have the same terms, we have the same a and b, but one has an addition and one has a subtraction. So this one is the important one for the day. So we'll have a plus b times a minus b. So these have to be the same exact terms. A has to be a, b has to be b. And what this equals is a squared minus b squared. So we'll take that a term, plug it in, square it, put a subtraction sign, and we'll take that b term, plug it in, and square it, and then we're done. So let's look at an example. Let's say I had 2x squared plus 3 times 2x squared minus 3. Now here's my a term. It's the same exact one, 2x squared, 2x squared. So I can plug that in for a, 2x squared, and then I'm going to square that, like so. So I just copied exactly what I saw, 2x squared, plugged it in, and then put my square on the outside. Then I have my subtraction sign. And then I'll take my b term, which is the number 3, and I'll plug that in, and then I'll square that. Now we simplify. 2x squared times 2x squared would be 2 times 2 is 4, and then x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. And then I do subtraction, and I do 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. That's it. We're done. So I have an example that I'd like you to try. Remember, it's all about identifying your a and your b, plugging in, and then simplifying. So we have 3n plus 2 times 3n minus 2. Our a's are the same, our b's are the same, so we can use our special product. So please pause right here and try this one on your own. So hopefully you took the chance to try this one on your own. So what we'll do is we'll go 3n squared, I take my a term, square it, minus 2 squared. Now I simplify. Plug in, simplify. We get 3n times 3n is 9n squared. And then minus, bringing my minus sign down, 2 times 2 is 4. And we're done. Okay, so that's all we have today for our special products. Again, remember, the most important thing is do what you're most comfortable with. So if you don't want to memorize all these special products, know that you can still write things out and then simplify. So use the path that works best for you. But thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.